Mostly dry. It will be a little bit warmer tomorrow. Those high temps will be back into the 80s, so much more seasonal. And then there you go. Once we get closer to sunset, there's that opportunity for a few stray showers and maybe even a thunderstorm that will linger into late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. But then we could see some improvement by Sunday afternoon. We'll have a full look at that weekend for you in just about 10 minutes.
Thanks a lot, Riley. New at 11, one person has died after a motorcycle crash that happened last month. That accident happened on I-20 westbound near mile marker 1 in Aiken County back on April 26th. The Highway Patrol says a motorcycle hit a disabled car stopped in the traffic lane. The rider taken to AU Health where they later died. A former teacher's aide accused of licking a child's foot is back behind bars tonight, accused of committing a new offense. After being out on bond for only 10 days, Corey Rollins was arrested again today after investigators say he approached a boy in Columbia County and asking to see his feet. Rollins was initially arrested back in February after being accused of licking a child's feet at the Urban Air Adventure Park. News 12 has been following this story since the very beginning, and Taylor Martin is live in our newsroom tonight to give us the background on this disturbing case.
Corey Rollins is a former teacher's aide with a troubling history behind his name, dating back to the beginning of this year. It all started back in January when Corey Rollins was at a local trampoline park. Richmond County deputies say he allegedly asked a 7-year-old boy to take off his socks, then proceeded to tickle the minor's feet and lick them. That led to an arrest and an indictment. What followed was a period of leave from his job as a teacher's aide at Glen Hills Elementary School, where he ultimately resigned. About a month ago, Rollins was in the news again after being indicted on 7 additional counts of child molestation for allegedly molesting children at the school. Just 10 days ago, Judge Amanda Heath set Rollins' bond at $35,000, a decision the Richmond County District Attorney advised against, but she granted bond anyway with a few provisions. But none prohibited Rollins from being around children. Fast forward to today, and the alleged footlicker is back in jail after less than 2 weeks out on bond. The latest incident happened in Columbia County Wednesday. The sheriff's office says an unknown black male in a white Camaro approached the child, showed him foot pictures on his phone, and then asked to see the child's feet. After saying no, the child ran inside and told his family what happened. His mother pulled up a News 12 report of Corey Rollins, showed it to her son, who confirmed it was him. After this latest arrest, the district attorney is working to provoke his initial bond. With Rollins facing allegations in both Richmond and Columbia County, now the question is, will he be transferred back to Richmond County? Columbia County says not anytime soon.
The case will continue tracking. Taylor, thank you for that. A Grovetown man has died after being shot a number of times earlier this week at his home. Police say his stepdaughter admitted to doing it. On Tuesday, Grovetown police say they went to a home on Groveland Way in response to a possible shooting. They found Clarence Jordan in the garage with multiple gunshot wounds. They say Tasha Lawrence had stopped by the home to bring her mom flowers when she saw Jordan. Police say the two had an ongoing disagreement and that Lawrence got a gun from her car and shot Jordan. They say she drove to the Grovetown Police Department to turn herself in, confessing to everything. Lawrence is now facing a charge of murder. 2 workers were killed in that massive construction site fire in Charlotte. One of them identified now as DeMonte Sherrill, a father of 4. Tonight we hear from his parents who say he was a caring person, a loving father, and they are still in shock.
Went to the scene and all the smoke. I mean, I couldn't watch it. Couldn't watch it.
I'm still in shock, really numb about the whole situation.
Authorities in Charlotte waiting to release the second worker's identity until that family has been notified. In Beaufort County, a mother is accused of drowning her child, attempting to drown another one. This morning around 1:25, the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office responded to reports of a woman trying to drown her child. When they got to the home, deputies found a 6-year-old already dead. The sheriff says a 16-year-old who lives in the home woke up to the screams of her 8-year-old sister calling for help. That 16-year-old was able to take that 18-year-old out to safety.
My hat's off to the 16-year-old girl. Challenged with such an unbelievable incident in your own home involving your own family members and have the ability to do what she did. So I think she needs to be respected for that.
The sheriff went on to say deputies had to use a stun device on Jamie Bradley Burns after they say she tried to take a deputy's weapon. She's now facing charges of murder and attempted murder. A grand jury in Georgia indicts 3 sheriff's office employees in the September beating of an inmate in the Camden County Detention Center on the Georgia coast. Here's the security video showing the officers rushing into Jarrett Hobbs' cell and punching him in the head and neck. Another video shows Hobbs being thrown against a wall and pinned to the floor. Back in November, all 3 men were fired after being arrested and charged with battery, simple battery, and violating their oath of office. The inmate survived that attack. A judge has denied the request from Parker's Corporation that asked to be dropped from a wrongful death lawsuit. The company was named as one of the defendants in the lawsuit filed by the family of Mallory Beach. Beach died in a 2019 boating accident involving Paul Murdaugh, the son of convicted killer Alec Murdaugh. The lawsuit alleges Paul Murdaugh was able to buy alcohol from that Parker store and then get behind the wheel of the boat. The attorney representing the Beach family confirming the judge denied Parker's request for a summary judgment in that lawsuit. The family of Shanquella Robinson is pushing for the Biden administration to get involved in this international murder case. Robinson was killed in October vacationing in Mexico with friends. Her friends claim she died by alcohol poisoning, but an autopsy found severe spinal cord injuries. During a news conference today, Shaquella's mom demanded those responsible for her daughter's death to be brought to justice.
She did no wrong to no one, and we just heartbreaking how we seen a video of her being brutally beaten, and no one has been arrested yet. Someone should have been arrested right after the video was released.
Amen.
U.S. authorities say they don't have sufficient evidence to bring federal charges, but Mexican authorities have named one person who they say is responsible for the death, and the family wants that person brought to the U.S. to face charges. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott.
Number on your screen.
There are new allegations tonight against the Utah woman accused of killing her husband and then writing a children's book about grief. Investigators believe Corey Richens poisoned her husband with fentanyl. She's charged with aggravated murder, and now we're learning more about the financial issues the couple was having. Court documents show Richens took out a home equity loan on their house despite it being in her husband's name. She also withdrew at least $100,000 from her husband's accounts and spent $30,000 on his credit cards. Prosecutors say Richens took out 4 life insurance policies in Eric's name without his knowledge. The number of people with drug-resistant bacterial infections linked to contaminated eye drops rises up to 81 now. 4 people have died. That's up from 68 cases in March, including 14 people who've been blinded, 4 others who've had to have their eyes surgically removed. Most infections have been limited to the eyes, but the bacteria can be fatal when it gets into the bloodstream. The infections have not been definitively traced to EzraCare artificial tears, but the CDC and the FDA are urging people to stop using that product. It's been over a half century since a human stepped foot on the moon, but NASA has new plans to get boots back on the ground. It's part of the Artemis II mission. The 4 astronauts selected for this mission will spend 10 days in space. The goal is to test drive this cutting-edge deep space technology with the ultimate goal of getting a human on Mars. That's where these 4 astronauts come into play, making a lunar orbit to see if we have the technology to get a human all the way to the red planet.
We might just be 4 people, but we represent teams of tens of thousands, maybe even 100,000 people who are working on this Artemis mission.
Artemis II will also pave the way for the first landing of a woman and a person of color on the moon. The launch date for this mission is about a year and a half away. In the meantime, the crew is training on that all-new technology being tested for their journey. Also tonight, the passing of an American legend, Jim Brown. He was a dominant athlete who goes on to become a Hollywood actor and a leading voice in the civil rights movement.
Jim Brown takes the ball. He was one of the greatest football players to step foot on the gridiron, but his talents transcended sports. Jim Brown was born in 1936 in segregated Georgia.
When Jimmy Brown breaks loose for his
He rose to fame as a football and lacrosse standout at Syracuse. ESPN recently called him the greatest college football player ever.
number 32, Jimmy Brown.
Brown went on to play 9 seasons in the NFL for the Cleveland Browns. He led the league in rushing for 8 of those and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1971.
I retired from professional football.
At the top of his career, Brown quit the NFL at the age of 30 to pursue acting.
20 seconds.
He starred in dozens of films, including movies like The Dirty Dozen and Any Given Sunday, where he shared the screen with Al Pacino.
Never had him. How you gonna lose him?
Tonight, Brown also being remembered for his political activism during the Civil Rights Movement and the decades that followed. In the 1980s, Brown founded the Amer I Can Foundation, which teaches life skills to at-risk youth. He faced his own share of legal issues, serving time in prison in 2002 for charges related to a domestic violence dispute.
That's the greatness in the building.
Still, his legacy means he was revered by this generation of superstar athletes. Jim Brown was 87 years old.
An American sports hero there who is hard to stop on the football field. Well, just after the break, it's the moment Harlem fans have been waiting for. The Bulldogs winning their first title tonight since 1986. We're live in Rome with a wrap-up in just a few minutes.
I'm attorney George.
Lexus Acura Infinity. On your sideline, sports brought to you by the Hawk Law Group.
State doesn't come around too often. If you're Harlem baseball, often is 1999. Tonight, the Harlem baseball team had a chance to do something that hasn't been done since before they were born. Sports director Dan Booth is in Rome, where the busloads of Bulldog fans will witness history tonight. Dan, break it down for us back here at home.
Thank you, Alyssa. Tonight was a night decades in the making. The Harlem Bulldogs are state champions for the first time since 1986. And it wasn't easy by any stretch of the imagination, but they did find out a way to sweep Ringgold in tonight's state championship doubleheader. Now, when it comes to tonight's action, it was just incredible. The emotion was on full display from the jump. And when the final out of tonight's state championship was recorded, an entire season of hard work for the Bulldogs paid off, and years of heartbreak in the playoffs seemed to go away in the blink of an eye for Harlem. The Bulldogs pulled off comeback wins in both of their games tonight just to be able to sweep. In game one, they were trailing 3-2 in their final at bat, and they scored 3 runs in the top of the 7th to come out on top 5-3. In game two, it was a pitcher's duel for most of the way, but sophomore Will Holder held his own and did his thing by throwing a complete game and only gave up 1 run that came in the first inning. A 2-1 victory in game two helped the Dogs clinch state. There are so many great storylines about this team and tonight in general, but the biggest one has to be head coach Jimmy Lewis. He's been the head coach of the Harlem baseball program since 1979. That's 44 years of being a major part of this community, and when the inevitable question about his future came up, he answered in the only way the legendary Jimmy Lewis could.
I'm gonna coach till I drop dead in the third base box, okay? I mean, when you having fun, you having fun. How am I gonna quit now? You know, be real quiet. Don't let me grow up. I want to remain a kid. This is fabulous. This is fantastic. This makes all that work worthwhile.
That old man's always yelling at us. It's so much, I don't even know how to explain this feeling, but it's a good feeling, and these coaches deserve it.
Let me give thanks to the fans. Let me give thanks to my coaches. They're the hardest working crowd in the universe. And we had a lot of stuff, a lot of people we were playing for too.
Congrats to Harlem and everybody that's a part of that community, because it was so much fun covering this team this season. A season where they finished 35-1 overall, swept every single one of their playoff series, and won a state championship that this community is going to hold near and dear to their hearts for years to come. Reporting from Advent Health Stadium in Rome, Dan Booth on your side.
Hey, somebody give Coach Jimmy the whole summer off. I think he deserves it. I mean, you think about last fall football, even softball, they've been waiting for this. Even that whole community, enjoy it, right?
Yeah, it's just amazing. It really is. It's been so much fun covering this team, and this team played their tails off tonight to be able to get these games, because it wasn't easy to say the least, and they still found a way to get it done when their backs were up against the wall multiple times, and they just got it done. And it really is a special group of young men. And of course, Coach Jimmy Lewis, who's trying to do his best impression of a 20-year-old, who told us early on too, which was pretty cool.
Hey, when in Rome. Well, thank you so much, Dan. A couple teams will actually have to wait because of rainouts. Their games have been moved. The GIA state championship between Thomas Jefferson and First Preparatory will now take place tomorrow. And game 3, the SCISA 4A state championship has been moved to 3:30 on Sunday. North Augusta and Catawba Ridge battling it out for the Upper State Championship. The last time these two met in a series, the Jackets walked away state champions. 8th grader Madeline Tiger struck out 5 and kept them 2 even until Copperheads put the go-ahead runner on second and made it 3 with a bounce off the foot shot to short in the 6th. Bottom of the 7th, things got worse for wear for the Jackets, and the Copperheads double on down. The Jackets' road to the state ends in the Upper State Championship 5-2. In state for track and field, Aikens girls 4x1 relay won by 0.02 of a second to place first. The boys finished 4th. The Hornets' Eliza King won the girls' javelin for the 3rd year in a row. Luke Fundak placed 2nd in the boys. In the 200, Braylon Staley took 1st on the podium with a 21:63 time. He also nabbed 1st in the triple jump. In 2A track and field, Strom Thurmond's Chase Brightheart won state with a throw of 48 feet and 7 inches. He is the boys' shot put champion, and the Rebs had 17 athletes qualify for state. Gregory Bryant won both the boys' 100-meter and 200-meter dash. He clocked 10:86 in the 100, 21:92 in the 200. A couple state champions tonight.
Man, a lot of local athletes bringing home the hardware. Congratulations to them, and once again, a big congrats to the Harlem Bulldogs pulling in that state title tonight. We got looking good for tee times tomorrow. I would say most of us should stay dry through at least tomorrow afternoon. We'll have another look at those storm chances Saturday night just after break.
Time